27 authors brought together by Dr. Aishwarya Pandit. Dr. Aishwarya Pandit is the chairperson of the ITV Foundation and is also an associate professor at Jindal Global Law School. She has been a visiting fellow at the Center for the Study of Developing Societies and has previously taught as visiting faculty at IIM Indore. An author, her first book called Claiming Citizenship and Nation, Muslim Politics and State Building in North India, 1947 to 1986, was published in 2022. She is also a guest columnist for the Sunday Guardian. I request everyone with us today to extend our warm wishes to the author and editor, Dr. Aishwarya Pandit, with a round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, Indian Renaissance, the Modi decade, represents a significant achievement and an exciting addition to the literary world. Today, we come together to honor this accomplishment and to delve into the journey behind the creation of this book. The list of authors who have contributed to this book is lengthy and thus indicative of the diversity and perspective the book has to offer. Let's once again have a huge round of applause for the authors and the thinkers who have made this book possible, and Dr. Aishwarya Pandit for bringing their voices and thought to paper. I will now request the contributing authors and the editor, Dr. Aishwarya Pandit, along with Ms. Priya Sehgal, to join us and take this opportunity to delve deeper into Indian Renaissance, the Modi decade. I request Mr. Rishabh Gulati, Editor-in-Chief of Newsx, to moderate this session with our contributing authors. Rishabh, over to you.
All right. Can we get a microphone working? Yes, here we go.
Yes, sir.
Hoping that we are going to be able to have this. I'm hoping you guys can hear me, because generally I'm loud enough, but this is a bit of a large auditorium. First of all, I know this has been a journey, and any book, especially a compilation of pieces from 27 people across the world, is an exercise of a project in intelligentsia by itself. Let's start with the premise. The premise, ladies and gentlemen, is Renaissance, renascentia, rebirth, punarjagaran. It implies that there was something that is at the cusp of recreation. What history has taught us is that progress is not a straight line. It dips and ebbs. Things go well, and then things go not so well. In 410 AD, Alaric the Goth sacked Rome. So you can sometimes put a date to it. Something changed. So when I use the word Renaissance, what comes to your mind is not Punarjagaran. It's not rebirth. It immediately comes to your mind Michelangelo, Da Vinci, a classical revivalism in Europe. Why is that? It's because our history has been European-centric. And when the Europeans rediscovered their culture and sculpture and art, they called it a revival. The emergence from the Dark Ages, and something special that took place. Now, you don't have to be Catholic to go to the Sistine Chapel and look up and marvel at what was created. But it wasn't just art and culture. It wasn't just proto-religious. It was also science. The revival of curiosity. Copernicus rediscovering pieces. The heliocentric universe. All of that happened. And we are seeing a pattern emerge where we are sitting in our country, where we have had our dark ages. 300 years ago, India accounted for 26% of the world's GDP. By the time the British left us in 1947, it was 3%. That is the definition of the dark ages. In a Churchillian way, children who knew neither whence they came nor whither they go. But that is changing. You can feel it in the air. Hence the book, Indian Renaissance. Now, of course, the editor of the book, who's already a published author, is with us. Priya Sehgal, who's contributed to the book, and is my colleague, is with us also. But let me start with Aishwarya ji. Aishwarya ji, why pick up this subject?
I think when I thought of a book that I was going to write about the last 10 years, I thought of something that would capture the scale of transformation. Of course, when you go anywhere in any part of the country, or whether you travel overseas, you realize that there's so much talk about India. So I often wondered, why is there so much talk about India, and why is it all about that now we are having much more discussion about India than we have ever had before, and for a variety of reasons. Whether it is the Prime Minister's trips overseas, or whether he's making a statement within India, the world takes notice. And whether you travel to any nook and corner of this country, whether it's the villages, the block level, or any level, or in the cities, you can see change happening. So I wanted to write a book which documents the scale of transformation. I had read many books on our Prime Minister, but I felt, and as historians, as writers, we always keep looking for lacuna. What is missing? And that's because that's what is taught to us when we are doing our PhDs. And I was like, there's no book that captures the scale of transformation. And then I thought that I alone am not an expert on every field that includes this transformation. So I felt that a compilation of a book or a volume which consisted of authors and experts on the field who know their subject, who know what they're talking about, was essential to write about the scale of transformation under Prime Minister Narendra Modi. So that is why this book is an edited volume which includes a collection of essays, which is a global plus an Indian deep dive into the decade that defined India, and the definition of that decade is Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
You know, sometimes we miss the moment of the history we're living in. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want you to imagine it for a second. As we speak, the statistics will be out shortly, but within the next few months, India will overtake Germany as the 4th largest economy. It is almost impossible to comprehend that in the next few years, we, all of us, are going to see human population peak in numbers, which means there will never have been these many human beings in one place at one time. There shall never be again. India is about to peak, and that means the world is about to peak. So we are at a moment of history. So let's not lose the moment, and let me bring in Priya Sehgal on that, because Priya ji, what Nirmala Sitharaman says in her foreword is, and she's quoting PM Modi from 2014, exactly at the beginning of the decade you're writing about, we are here to undertake fundamental and transformational changes for India to realize its full potential. What is fundamental and transformational?
First of all, Rishabh, before I answer your question, I just want to add to what Aishwarya said about the title. It's the Indian Renaissance. We are not saying it's the age of Modi, because it's not a calendar event. It's an emotion. It's much, much more than just a moment in time. That is what Prime Minister Modi has ushered in the last decade and is continuing to do so. It is politics unusual. It is a new way of doing things. His return of the personality cult is something that stands out the most, and that is something. It's not that it wasn't there earlier. We all know Indira Gandhi. We all know what happened then. But today, even after third term, even with a mandate that is diminished, he still looms the largest on the horizon. Today, we are sitting in Delhi as we are having this conversation. Delhi elections. Everybody says, oh, is it about the issue revolving around one man? Is Kejriwal the issue? my take on that is even Kejriwal has made Modi the issue, but what is Kejriwal doing? He's doing a Modi. He's become a Modi light. So even in Delhi, it is not Kejriwal the issue. It is who is the real Modi, who delivers better, a Modi light or the Prime Minister himself, Modi himself. So that is what he's done. In every election, we are seeing either the Prime Minister himself versus someone who is trying to become a Modi. That is what he has done. That is the transformation in terms of the poll narrative, the poll rhetoric, and elections as we know it are now, it just everything has been modified, as we all say.
Okay, so let me pick up on that thought, because the chapter that Aishwarya ji has contributed to this book is called Dismantling a Legacy. So let me just read a line from it. You say Modi has evolved his own doctrine, which is very different from that of his predecessors. What is the Modi doctrine that we've understood in the past 10 years?
I think Modi's doctrine is likely in the vision that he's expounded. He has a plan, and he's expounded that plan, that this is what he intends to do for the country, and this is how he's going to achieve it. It's after a very long time do we see a leader and a prime minister who has a clear blueprint of what he intends to do as far as the country is concerned. And he has set these benchmarks, and every time when we meet him in every 5 years, he has another blueprint ready for the next decade or so. And his blueprint goes beyond just the immediate. It is long-term. So the clarity is what the Modi doctrine is. The clarity of vision is that he's going to bring about changes which are structural, social, economic, cultural, and every aspect of India is what is something that the Prime Minister has an impact on. He's obviously transformed the Bharatiya Janata Party, who the leader is, and there's a very interesting instance in the book which I cite. When I was set about to writing this book, I noticed, and that time elections were going on, and I was doing research at the BJP headquarters, and there's a library there. So once, when the BJP won one of the state elections, and so we were told that the Prime Minister would be arriving there. So he always comes to the party headquarters, and the speech he gave to the Karyakartas was a speech in which he was telling them the party is supreme. I am a Karyakarta like you. You are the ones, and the party president. We all work hard, and this is how we achieve results. He's taking everyone along. No matter what critics might say, he takes everyone along. He has developed leadership in different parts of the country, within the party, in different governments across the state. So the Prime Minister, the kind of messaging he gives even to his own party is very, very strong. And every time he goes to the party headquarters, celebrates with the party cadres, and that is what keeps them enthusiastic about the next election or about his vision, because they are a part of that vision, and that's very important for a leader.
Okay, so let me pick up. Let's go back 2014 and jog our memories, right? There is a new Prime Minister who's taking oath. It is a ceremony in which neighboring prime ministers have been invited. An oath-taking ceremony happens, and immediately after that Priya Sehgal, we see an Indian Prime Minister grab a broom, get on the streets, and start sweeping. And what we now take for granted as a Swachh Bharat initiative starts. That was 12 years ago. We can all visualize it. And you're all wondering what is actually happening. Is this the immediate priority? And then you realize it's starting with the basics.
No, absolutely right. What he's done is he's made leadership accessible to all of us, whether it is him sweeping the broom, whether he's talking from the Red Fort about sanitation. So he's taken your day-to-day issues and put them in the narrative of governance. He is addressing them. He is saying, I'll come into your homes. He will see the chula. He will fix the chula. He will talk about the gas delivery. He is actually addressing, walking straight into your homes and sitting there and literally looking at everything that needs to be done, whether it is a house, toilet. So these are the issues that he has, brought to the narrative of governance. governance, which is why, earlier on when we used to have the Congress governments in power, there used to be this whole mystique of leadership, the 10 Janpath. It was, a vague sort of idea, the idea of this thing. Nobody knew what went, very few people were, given access, which even today, I don't think many people get access to Prime Minister's house, but at least there was this idea of 10 Janpath. We didn't know what they thought because they would never communicate with us. We were told what they thought via an Ahmed Patel or via, Fatehdar, or whoever the person at that hour was, the political advisor. Here, Prime Minister is talking directly, whether it is because of Twitter or even if there was no Twitter, I'm sure he would have found a way. It is a direct communication. He's got rid of the interpreters. He's got rid of even, we keep saying even the media, which is what the BJP loves to tell us. But in a way, they are right because there is no room for misinformation, misunderstanding. It is a direct communication, and he's talking directly to us. And what is he talking about? He's talking about your day-to-day issues, which is what the people really want to know. The middle class is, feeling a bit unhappy because we are also, the middle class is used to another narrative of governance. So what Aishwarya wrote, dismantling a legacy, he's also dismantled the gatekeepers. The legacy is also of the gatekeepers, the people who carry the narrative forward. So there is a whole levels that has been dismantled of the old order, which is what the book really is all about.
So let me pick up on that thought because as Prasanna Rajan, who's sitting here in the audience, in his chapter, and he's calling it the Redeemer's Right. Now he writes, an establishment that distrusted India's cultural ancestry, its civilizational memory, power in 2014 intensified its campaign for rebuilding a nation. Redeemers don't want the foreword to their saga to be written in haste. What was the identity crisis then, Aishwarya ji, that we have been facing, and what are we now? How do we identify ourselves in this new India of an Indian Renaissance?
Under Prime Minister Modi, we identify ourselves as a culturally driven nation where we draw our strength from our past, but we also are ready for the future. We are keeping in mind the challenges that the modern world faces, and we have our own way of responding to those challenges. We have our own policy, we have our own foreign policy, we have our own interests. It's India first, which I also write in my chapter, whether it's foreign policy or whether it is the kind of messaging that is to be sent out under Prime Minister Modi. It is more about India first. I want to pick on one of the points that Priya said, and that is an interesting point that she said that he has dismantled this whole old style of communication where he's communicating directly to the people. He's also brought in a new thing in the form of, for the longest time, we used to not think about the women vote, and we both are two women sitting on the stage. And now he's made it to be such that every party is addressing and looking at women, and looking at the question of women, and are addressing the women voters. Otherwise, women were just seen as a plus one to their husbands or any male members of the family. But now with the Prime Minister's direct vote appeal, he looks at the women far beyond just being an addition to a plus one. Women are seen as individual entities in their own right, and I think that is one of the most important transformations.
But Priya, but have we grown up under an identity crisis, that the governance of India, not Bharat, was still simply transferred to the English-speaking elite in Lutyens' Delhi and carried on, and there was an India and Bharat. Now, a few years ago, this is what we are talking about, Lutyens' Delhi gang and Khan Market gang, and there was an elitism. Is it different? Was there an India and Bharat and now is there just Bharat?
Yeah, there was, it's very interesting because Rahul Gandhi is the one who first talked about India and Bharat, when he began his, discovery of India tours, trying to figure the other India, Bharat, and he came out saying there are two Indias, there is India and Bharat, but he didn't go beyond the rhetoric. Modi is from Bharat. So, he is the rhetoric himself. That is the difference between Rahul and Modi. So, he's been able to bring that out much better. So, what he is, the whole narrative is actually that the India is the internationalism of India versus the nationalism of Bharat. He is bringing your narrative back to you, your Indianness, which is why now we are seeing all the reference points have changed, you know, whether it is making fun of the Khan Market gang, renaming roads, bringing, you know, people, icons that had been ignored by the Congress. Now we have a, you know, a statue of Subhash Chandra Bose. We have the tallest statue, not of Nehru, but Sardar Patel. We have, you know, history books being written. This happens with everybody. Every government does it. But here is being done with a narrative and a very forward goal in mind, that we are bringing you back to your roots. Do not be ashamed of quoting Indian authors and Indian, you know, instead of just talking Shakespeare and aping the West. Look within you for your own identity. That is what he has actually brought back. And even, you know, if you look at it in terms of the people you meet, the people who are, you know, at the governance level, the schools you would like to send your kids to. Earlier on, you know, the people didn't ask girl or boy. They used to ask doon or vellums, because the minute the child is born, they want to get them registered in one of these public schools where prime ministers went, the Eatons of India. Today, all that has changed, you know. So your own schools where your own culture is, those are the people who are coming into prominence, and they are the movers and shakers of Bharat today. And people are actually now, everybody is now realizing their own, you know, Indian roots. Everybody is either they have a Hindi number plate, or they are tweeting in, you know, if you, everybody's visiting card today has two sides. One is the English side, the other side you have in Hindi. Pehle nahi tha ye sab. So, you know, he's made you proud of what you are. Earlier on it was, oh, Hindi medium. Now it's like with pride you say it, you know. So there is that, you know, he's made you pride of being Indian, which is why when you go abroad, it's, as I think somebody wrote in the book also, it's the eyes. The Indians, we have that confidence in our eyes, which maybe was not there earlier, because we were made to feel, oh, we are, you know, second best. We are aping you, we are not you. Here we are ourselves, and being an Indian is, wow, you know, it's a great thing to have. So that is what he has done for us.
You know, so I'm hoping this is an introduction, and you guys, and all of you get a chance to go through the book as well. So as Prasanna Rajan talking about the Redeemer, Kartikeya Sharma talking about the catalyst. Now let me bring this point in, because we are talking about, at the very beginning, the premise is drawn. Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. And you know that has evolved to Vishwas and then Prayas. Now, was this then just a motto, or was it something to live by, which has been proved over 12 years? So here's an instance. We all know what happened. Kartikeya Sharma writes, in contrast, in 1986, a year after the Supreme Court mandated that Muslim husbands who gave talaq must provide monthly maintenance to their wives, a decision opposed by Muslim hardliners, Rajiv Gandhi's government reversed the decision through legislation. We all know this incident, and we know that the present government has, of course, acted on triple talaq. Aishwarya Pandit, now...
But Rajiv Gandhi was advised by someone who's now minister in this government.
Yeah,
earlier.
Yeah, but the premise I'm trying to draw is that Rajiv was supposed to be the technocrat with new vision, new technology, new ideas, and then this happened, which many still consider was not a progressive decision. Have we lived up to Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas?
One of the most important things, whereas the Prime Minister is concerned, is the consistency with what he says and what he does. Because if it's, I think over a period of time when I mapped different aspects while writing my chapter, I realized that most of it was not rhetorical, but it was more into terms of practice, in terms of the schemes of the Government of India, or whether the implementation of the schemes, or the general outlook. If he said it was India first as far as foreign policy was concerned, it was India first. If he said we want to be proud of our cultural heritage and we should celebrate it, he set things in motion which would ensure that that there was a certain sense of a cultural pride and a certain sense of being as far as an Indian was concerned. So I think the most important aspect of the Prime Minister's thing is consistency. What you say is what you do and what you see. He's always said that he wants to take everyone along. And I still remember in my interview, which I did in Patna during the Lok Sabha elections, he said, my schemes are for everyone. It targets a wide cross-section of the people, and it's with an idea in mind. For example, toilets. Who thought of toilets? Of course, we've heard so many speeches from read for from many prime ministers, but I've never heard of toilets. Nobody talked about how toilets were necessary for the privacy and dignity of women. And we were all these people who were constantly traveling and going here and there. And we spoke of Western countries and their facilities. But nobody, as far as the leadership is concerned, ever spoke of toilets. Now, someone might say it's such a basic thing. What's the big deal about it? But for a large cross-section of the people who still have to defecate outside, I think the very discussion of it is very, very significant. And then the toilets building activity did begin, and toilets were built at a remarkable speed. So it's not just that he took this idea that sanitation and those facilities were very necessary. So I feel it's the consistency and not the rhetoric which defines his decade.
You know, my last opportunity to claim I'm still in my 30s is running out very, very fast. But even in growing up, the last generation that remembers is mine, that remembers when we ran out of foreign exchange, no money to buy petrol, schools in the national capital had to be shut. And a new generation hopefully will never see those kinds of days. It's a perspective, it's a frustration. I remember when COVID was just ending, I wanted to take my parents out for a drive. And this Meerut Expressway had just started. And nothing could be imagined something like this could be built in India. It's been a journey. So from the catalyst to the redeemer, and as Priya Sehgal has written in her chapter, also the disruptor, we get a chance to have this conversation through the course of the next 1 hour. Thank you for this book, and thank you Aishwarya ji and Priya ji for having this conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.